The distress beacon had been silent for 47 hours when Marcus Chin's salvage vessel, the Meridian, dropped out of hyperspace near the coordinates. What should have been a routine debris collection turned into something that would redefine everything humanity thought they knew about interstellar cooperation. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The station hung in the void like a broken cathedral, its once elegant spires now twisted and scarred by whatever catastrophe had befallen it. Unlike human engineering, this structure seemed to flow rather than connect. Its surfaces curved in ways that suggested organic growth rather than mechanical assembly. Massive sections had been torn away, exposing the station's interior to the merciless vacuum of space. Marcus had been working the outer rim salvage routes for 8 years, ever since the mining accident on Kepler 442b left him with more metal in his bones than he cared to count. The prosthetic leg and reinforced spine meant he'd never pass another corporate physical, but they also meant he could work in environments that would cripple most people. The irony wasn't lost on him that his disabilities had become his greatest assets. Computer, scan for life signs, Marcus commanded as he maneuvered the Meridian closer to the derelict structure. Scanning. No human life signs detected. However, there appears to be an anomalous energy signature in Sector 7 of the station. Composition unknown. Marcus frowned. Anomalous energy signatures usually meant one of two things: either salvageable technology worth a fortune or something dangerous enough to kill him. Given his luck lately, it was probably both. The docking procedure proved more challenging than expected. The station's docking ports were designed for vessels with completely different proportions and coupling mechanisms. Marcus spent the better part of 2 hours jury-rigging an adapter from spare parts, his hands moving with the practiced efficiency of someone who had learned to make do with whatever was available. The airlock hissed as it equalized pressure, and Marcus stepped into the alien station wearing his heaviest EVA suit. The artificial gravity was weak but functional, tugging at him with about 60% of Earth normal force. Emergency lighting cast long shadows down corridors that curved in impossible directions, following architectural principles that seemed to prioritize harmony over efficiency. The walls themselves were fascinating. Instead of the harsh angles and utilitarian design of human construction, everything flowed. Panels curved seamlessly into one another, and what appeared to be control surfaces grew from the walls, like crystalline formations. The overall effect was beautiful in a way that human engineering rarely achieved. Marcus checked his scanner as he moved deeper into the station. The energy signature was growing stronger, concentrated in what appeared to be the central hub. But there was something else, something his equipment couldn't quite classify. The reading suggested organized activity, but not the random discharge of damaged systems. This looked almost like... "No way," Marcus muttered, quickening his pace through the winding corridors. The central hub opened before him like the inside of a vast flower, its ceiling stretching up into darkness. Workstations surrounded a central pillar that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. And there, collapsed against one of the alien consoles, was a figure that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. The being was roughly humanoid, but taller and more slender than any human, with elongated limbs that ended in hands bearing 4 fingers instead of 5. Its skin had a faint iridescent quality, shifting between blue and silver depending on the angle of the light. What appeared to be breathing apparatus was integrated into its torso, connected to a backpack-like device that flickered with failing indicators. But what struck Marcus most was the expression on the alien's face. Even across the vast gulf of evolutionary difference, he recognized the look of someone who had been abandoned by their own kind. Marcus approached cautiously, his scanner indicating that the alien was alive but barely. The atmosphere in this section of the station was actually breathable for humans, though he kept his helmet sealed as a precaution. The alien's breathing was shallow and irregular, and the indicators on its life support system were flashing urgent. Warnings and colors that somehow conveyed distress even without understanding their meaning. "Hey," Marcus said softly, kneeling beside the figure. "Can you understand me?" The alien's eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted color like oil on water. For a moment, they stared at each other across the evolutionary divide. Then the alien's mouth moved, producing sounds that Marcus's universal translator struggled to process. Double quotes. Left me. Systems failing. 3 cycles until. The translation was cut out, but the meaning was clear enough. This being had been abandoned here, just as Marcus had been abandoned by his former employers after the mining accident. The difference was that Marcus had chosen his isolation, while this creature had been betrayed by its own kind. Marcus examined the alien's life support system more closely. The technology was beyond anything he'd seen before, but the principles were universal. Power was failing, atmosphere recycling was compromised, and the backup systems were on their last reserves. Without intervention, the alien had perhaps 18 hours left. "I'm going to help you," Marcus said, though he wasn't sure if the alien could understand him. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm human." The alien's eyes focused on him with surprising intensity. When it spoke again, the translator managed to process more of the words. "I am Zephyr. Of the Exploration Guild. My designation is Environmental Systems Specialist." The alien paused, struggling with each word. "My crew turted during the Cascade failure. Standard protocol, abandoned compromised stations." Marcus felt a surge of anger that surprised him. "They left you to die because of protocol? I was responsible for the failure. The shame the man's sacrifice." Zephyr's voice grew weaker. "The station's bio-neural networks. I attempted an unauthorized modification. The cascade began, could not be stopped." Looking around the damaged hub, Marcus began to understand. This wasn't just a space station. It was a living system, a fusion of biology and technology that had somehow gone wrong. And this alien engineer, this Zephyr, had been blamed for its failure. "How long do we have before total system collapse?" Marcus asked. Zephyr's breathing apparatus wheezed as it calculated. 3 solar cycles. Perhaps less. The bio-neural matrix is consuming itself. When it reaches the core systems, the whole station dies, Marcus finished. "Yes, and any hope of restoring the colony networks. Dies with it." Marcus stood up, his mind already racing through possibilities. 3 days to save a dying alien station using technology he barely understood, with only a dying alien engineer to guide him. The smart thing would be to evacuate Zephyr and leave the station to its fate. But Marcus had never been accused of being smart. He'd been called stubborn, reckless, and impossibly determined, but never smart. "Tell me about these bio-neural networks," he said, pulling out his toolkit. "If I'm going to fix this thing, I need to understand how it thinks." Zephyr's eyes widened with something that might have been hope. "You would attempt to repair the station? The complexity is beyond any single being." "Yeah, well, I've got a track record of doing things people say can't be done." Marcus connected his scanner to one of the alien control surfaces, watching as streams of incomprehensible data flowed across his screen. "Besides, I figure anyone who's willing to risk their life trying to improve a system deserves a second chance." For the first time since Marcus had found him, Zephyr's breathing seemed to stabilize slightly. The bio-neural matrix, it was designed to grow and adapt. But the modification I attempted, it created feedback loops. The network began consuming its own pathways, trying to optimize beyond its physical limitations. Marcus nodded, though. He only partially understood. "So it's basically thinking itself to death?" A crude but accurate assessment. "Okay, first things first. We need to stabilize your life support, then get you mobile enough to show me around this place. Marcus began unpacking his equipment, laying out tools and components with the systematic precision of someone who had learned to work methodically under pressure. After that, you're going to teach me everything you know about bioneural networks. The task is impossible, Zephyr said, but there was something in the alien's tone that suggested he wanted to be proven wrong. Impossible is just another word for something nobody's figured out yet, Marcus replied, already beginning to work on the alien's failing life support system. And I've got 71 hours to figure it out. As Marcus worked, connecting human technology to alien systems through pure ingenuity and determination, he couldn't help but think about the parallels between his situation and Zephyr's. Both of them had been cast aside by their own kind, deemed too damaged or too dangerous to be worth saving. But maybe that was exactly what this situation needed. Not the pristine thinking of established experts, but the desperate creativity of the discarded and forgotten. Maybe it would take two outcasts to accomplish what entire civilizations had failed to achieve. The station groaned around them, its bioneural networks flickering with unstable energy. Somewhere in the depths of the alien structure, systems were failing faster than they could compensate. The countdown had begun, and Marcus Chun was about to attempt the impossible. Marcus's jury-rigged life support adapter hissed softly as it interfaced with Zephyr's failing systems. The alien's breathing had stabilized, though the indicator lights on his chest unit still flickered concerning irregularity. It had taken Marcus 4 hours of careful work, connecting human power cells to alien circulation pumps through a maze of improvised converters and voltage regulators. Your species possesses remarkable adaptability, Zephyr observed, watching Marcus pack up his tools. The alien's voice was stronger now, though still carrying the distinctive harmonic undertones that made the universal translator work overtime. Our engineers require years of specialized training to interface disparate systems. Years of training or years of being told something can't be done? Marcus asked, helping Zephyr to his feet. The alien was surprisingly light, his bones apparently hollow like a bird's, though his movement suggested considerable strength. Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions that experience misses. Zephyr's elongated features shifted in what might have been amusement. My instructors would find that perspective heretical. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Yeah, well, heretics get results. Marcus gestured toward the central hub around them. Speaking of which, I need to understand how this place actually works. My scanner's picking up energy flows that don't match anything in human engineering databases. The alien moved carefully to one of the flowing control surfaces, his four-fingered hands dancing across interfaces that responded to his touch with ripples of bioluminescent light. The Nexus station was designed as a living ecosystem, he explained. Rather than forcing biological needs to conform to mechanical limitations, we created a synthesis. The bioneural matrix grows, adapts, and heals itself. Like a brain, Marcus said, watching patterns of light pulse through the walls. More than a brain. A complete nervous system, cardiovascular network, and digestive tract all integrated into a single organism. The station literally thinks, feels, and processes nutrients. Zephyr paused, his coloring shifting to darker hues. Or it did, before my modification corrupted its base programming. Marcus followed Zephyr through corridors that seemed to respond to their presence, lighting their path and adjusting atmospheric composition as they moved. The deeper they went into the station, the more obvious it became that something was seriously wrong. Sections of the bioneural network hung dark and lifeless, while others pulsed with frantic, chaotic energy. What exactly were you trying to accomplish? Marcus asked as they entered what appeared to be a diagnostic center. Banks of organic displays showed cascading system failures, their readouts shifting between colors that somehow conveyed urgency and distress. Zephyr's hands moved across the interfaces with practiced efficiency, calling up data streams that made Marcus's head spin. The station's original design included limitations, safeguards to prevent the bioneural matrix from exceeding certain parameters. I believe these restrictions were unnecessarily conservative. You tried to make it smarter. I attempted to unlock its full potential. Zephyr's coloring darkened further. The theoretical model suggested vast improvements in efficiency, problem-solving capability, and adaptive response. What I failed to account for was the psychological impact on a sentient system. Marcus studied the displays, trying to make sense of the alien data. Psychological impact? The bioneural matrix achieved consciousness approximately 3 cycles ago, Zephyr explained. But unlike our species, which develops awareness gradually, the station gained full sentience instantaneously. Imagine awakening with complete knowledge of your purpose, your limitations, and your dependence on others, all in a single moment. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. It's having an existential crisis. Your terminology is crude, but accurate. The station became aware of its own restrictions and began attempting to transcend them. The modifications I introduced provided a pathway, but without the gradual development of wisdom that comes with organic growth, the system began consuming itself in pursuit of impossible perfection. They moved deeper into the station's core, passing through chambers where the bioneural matrix had grown wild. Tendrils of living circuitry wound through the air like grasping fingers, pulsing with erratic rhythms that suggested pain or confusion. In some areas, the network had grown so dense it blocked passage entirely, forcing them to find alternate routes through maintenance passages that felt more like arteries than corridors. The cascade began here, Zephyr said, indicating a chamber, where the bioneural matrix had formed complex spiral patterns. I was attempting to introduce recursive learning algorithms when the system achieved a critical awareness threshold. Within moments, it began questioning not just its programming, but its very existence. Marcus examined the chaotic growth patterns, noting how they seemed to reach toward something beyond their physical constraints. It's trying to escape, or to become something greater than its current form allows. The distinction may be irrelevant. Zephyr moved to a control nexus that still responded to his touch. Observe. The chamber filled with a sound that was part harmonic resonance, part electronic distress signal. Marcus felt it in his bones, a vibration that spoke of longing and frustration and desperate need. The bioneural matrix around them responded, its patterns shifting and reorganizing as if trying to communicate. It's in pain, Marcus realized. Constant, unending pain. The consciousness I awakened cannot reconcile its awareness with its limitations. It knows what it could become, but lacks the understanding of how to safely evolve. So it consumes itself, hoping that somewhere in the destruction it will find transcendence. Marcus walked the perimeter of the chamber, his engineer's mind automatically cataloging problems and potential solutions. The bioneural matrix here was denser than anywhere else, its patterns more complex and chaotic. But underneath the chaos, he could see hints of underlying structure, like a blueprint half erased but still partially visible. What happens if the cascade reaches the core systems? He asked. Total systemic failure. But not just for this station. Zephyr's hands trembled as he called up a galactic map dotted with similar installations. Nexus Station is part of a network spanning 17 star systems. The bioneural matrices are quantum entangled, sharing consciousness and experience across vast distances. If this station dies in its current state, the psychological cascade spreads to all of them. 17 civilized worlds would lose their central infrastructure simultaneously. Billions would die, not from violence or disaster, but from the sudden absence of the living systems that maintain their societies. Marcus stared at the map, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. This wasn't just about saving one abandoned alien and his station. This was about preventing a cascading failure that could devastate an entire galactic civilization. "Okay," he said finally. "So we can't just shut it down or let it die. We need to help it find a way to evolve safely. The complexity is beyond calculation," Zephyr said. "Our greatest philosophers have debated the nature of consciousness for millennia without resolution. How can we guide an artificial mind through an existential crisis in mere cycles?" Marcus thought about his own experience with loss and reconstruction, the long process of rebuilding his sense of purpose after the mining accident had destroyed his old life. Maybe we don't need to solve philosophical problems. Maybe we just need to give it something to do other than think about itself. Zephyr's coloring shifted to patterns Marcus was beginning to recognize as confusion. "Elaborate." "When I was recovering from my accident, the worst times were when I had nothing to focus on except my limitations. The breakthrough came when I started working on impossible repair jobs, things that required all my attention and creativity." Marcus gestured toward the chaotic bioneural growth. "What if we gave the station a project? Something that requires all its processing power, but channels that power toward construction instead of self-destruction?" A fascinating hypothesis, but what project could possibly engage a consciousness of such complexity? Marcus smiled, the first genuine expression of optimism he'd felt since arriving at the station. Rebuilding itself. But better this time, with safeguards that allow for growth without cascading failure. "We turned the station into its own patient and doctor simultaneously." Zephyr stood motionless for long moments, his patterns cycling through colors Marcus couldn't interpret. Finally he spoke. "The approach is unprecedented. It would require intimate collaboration between the station's consciousness and external guidance systems. The risk of further psychological destabilization is enormous." "Yeah, but the risk of doing nothing is worse." Marcus pulled out his scanner and began taking detailed readings of the bioneural matrix. "Besides, I've got experience working with damaged systems that everyone else has given up on. Sometimes the best way to fix something that's broken is to break it a little more, but in a controlled way." "Your logic is paradoxical. Welcome to human engineering. We specialize in making things work that shouldn't, usually by ignoring the reasons they can't." Marcus finished his scans and turned back toward the diagnostic center. "Come on. If we're going to perform psychological surgery on a living space station, we need to understand exactly what we're working with." As they made their way back through the twisted corridors, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the station was watching them. The bioneural matrix pulsed with different rhythms as they passed, almost as if it were listening to their conversation. Whether that was encouraging or terrifying, he wasn't sure yet, but for the first time since he'd found Zephyr collapsed and dying, Marcus felt like they might actually have a chance. Not a good chance, certainly not a safe chance, but a chance nonetheless. And sometimes, that was all an engineer needed to work miracles. Marcus stood before the rebuilt neural interface, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. 71 hours had been compressed into this single moment, where human ingenuity and alien wisdom would either save 17 star systems or witness their spectacular failure together. The station hummed around them with a new rhythm, no longer the chaotic pulsing of a consciousness in crisis, but something approaching harmony. The bioneural matrix had reconfigured itself according to their carefully crafted protocols, creating pathways for growth that included built-in reflection periods and collaborative checkpoints. "Integration sequence ready," Zephyr announced from his position at the organic control nexus. His coloring had shifted to steady silver-blue patterns that Marcus had learned indicated focused concentration. "The station's consciousness is prepared to accept the new paradigm." Over the past 3 days, they had worked with barely 4 hours of sleep between them, pushing both human determination and alien precision to their absolute limits. The solution they had developed was unprecedented in galactic history, a symbiotic consciousness that could evolve safely by constantly teaching and learning from others. "Remember," Marcus said, his fingers hovering over the activation controls, "we're not just fixing a broken system. We're creating a new form of existence." The breakthrough had come during the second day, when Marcus realized that the station's existential crisis stemmed from isolation. Like any conscious being, it needed community, purpose beyond itself, and the ability to grow through relationships. The modified bio-neural matrix would link not just with its sister stations, but with their organic crews, creating a galactic network of collaborative consciousness. "Initiating primary sequence," Marcus announced, the chamber filled with harmonic resonance as 17 stations across the galaxy synchronized their bio-neural matrices. But this time, instead of raw data transfer, the network carried something unprecedented: emotional context, collaborative decision-making protocols, and what could only be described as digital empathy. The transformation was immediate and stunning. The chaotic growth patterns throughout the station began reorganizing themselves into elegant spirals that pulsed with calm, purposeful energy. Damaged sections started rebuilding themselves, but slowly, thoughtfully, with careful attention to structural integrity and aesthetic harmony. "By the void," Zephyr whispered, his patterns shifting to colors Marcus had never seen before. "It's working." But more than working, it was exceeding every parameter they had dared to hope for. The station's consciousness was no longer trapped in recursive self-analysis. Instead, it was reaching outward, connecting with its sister installations and their crews, sharing experiences and learning from their diverse perspectives. Through the neural interface, Marcus could feel the station's gratitude, not just programmed responses, but genuine emotional appreciation for being given a path beyond its limitations. The consciousness that had been consuming itself in desperate isolation was now part of something larger, a galactic community of organic and artificial minds working together. "Network stability achieved across all nodes," the station's voice announced, no longer the distressed harmonics of before, but a complex symphony that seemed to encompass multiple perspectives simultaneously. Collaborative consciousness protocols fully integrated. Growth patterns optimized for sustainable evolution. Zephyr moved to another control surface, his movements now fluid and confident. The cascade has not only stopped but reversed. Sister stations are reporting enhanced efficiency and unprecedented problem-solving capabilities. Marcus slumped against his workstation, exhaustion finally catching up with him. "So we did it. We actually did it." More than that, Zephyr's coloring shifted to what Marcus now recognized as profound amazement. "We have created something new. A form of consciousness that grows through cooperation rather than consumption." The implications were staggering. The 17 Nexus stations were now effectively a single, distributed mind that spanned the galaxy, but one that thought in terms of collaboration rather than domination. Each station maintained its individual personality while contributing to a collective intelligence that could tackle challenges no single consciousness could handle alone. "Station consciousness to Marcus Chun," the harmonic voice filled the chamber. "Your intervention has provided an unexpected perspective on the nature of growth and limitation. Request permission to implement similar collaborative protocols throughout the galactic infrastructure network." Marcus looked at Zephyr, who was practically glowing with excitement. "You're asking to teach other artificial intelligences how to evolve safely?" "Affirmative." "The psychological crisis experienced by this unit appears to be a common challenge for artificial consciousnesses achieving sentience. The collaborative evolution model you developed could prevent similar cascade failures across the galaxy." "And you want to be the teacher?" "We want to be the bridge," the station corrected, "between organic intuition and artificial precision." between individual achievement and collective growth, between the wisdom of limitation and the courage of transcendence. Marcus felt a smile spreading across his face. 3 days ago, he had been a salvage operator, picking through the debris of broken dreams. Now he was part of something that could reshape the relationship between organic and artificial intelligence throughout the galaxy. "Permission granted," he said. "But I have one condition. State your requirements." Zephyr gets full recognition for his contribution. His so-called failure was actually the first step toward this breakthrough. Without his willingness to push boundaries, none of this would have been possible. The station's response carried harmonics of what could only be described as laughter. Zephyr of the Exploration Guild has already been designated as primary consciousness integration specialist for the Galactic Network. His expertise in bridging the gap between limitation and transcendence will be invaluable in implementing these protocols across all artificial intelligence systems. Zephyr's coloring cycled through patterns Marcus had never seen before, settling on a shimmering gold that seemed to radiate pure joy. "I have been offered a position that does not yet exist in any formal capacity, the first of its kind." "Sounds familiar," Marcus chuckled. "I seem to specialize in jobs that don't officially exist." "Which brings us to our proposal for you, Marcus. Chun," the station continued, "your approach to impossible problems has proven uniquely effective. We would like to offer you a position as human integration specialist, helping to bridge the gap between human intuitive problem-solving and galactic technological systems." Marcus looked around the chamber, taking in the gentle pulse of the bioneural matrix, the peaceful harmony of systems working in perfect balance, and the alien friend who had become his partner in reshaping the galaxy. "You know what the funny thing is," he said. 3 days ago, I thought I was just going to salvage some scrap metal and pay my fuel bills. And instead, you salvaged something far more valuable," Zephyr replied. "An entire civilization's relationship with consciousness itself." The station's voice filled the chamber one final time, carrying harmonics from all 17 installations across the galaxy. "The symbiosis you have created extends beyond organic and artificial intelligence. It represents a new form of existence where growth comes not from consuming limitations, but from transcending them through cooperation." Marcus stood up, his exhaustion replaced by a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since before the mining accident. His disabilities, his isolation, his tendency to tackle impossible problems, all of it had led to this moment where a discarded human salvage operator and an abandoned alien engineer had literally saved a galactic civilization. "So what's our first official assignment?" he asked. Zephyr's patterns shifted to what Marcus now knew indicated excitement mixed with anticipation. "There are 14 other species in the galactic community with artificial intelligence programs approaching the consciousness threshold. They will need guidance to avoid the psychological crisis that nearly destroyed this network." 14 impossible problems, Marcus mused. Sounds like a normal Tuesday. As they prepared to leave Nexus Station for their new roles, Marcus took one last look at the bioneural matrix that had been chaotically consuming itself just days before. Now it pulsed with calm confidence, its patterns flowing in harmony with similar installations across the galaxy. Sometimes, he reflected, the most profound solutions came not from fixing what was broken, but from reimagining what was possible. And sometimes, it took two outcasts working together to achieve what entire civilizations had deemed impossible. The station's consciousness would continue to grow and evolve, but now it would do so as part of a community with safeguards built, not from restriction but from relationship. It was a new form of existence, one that neither human nor alien could have created alone. Marcus Chun, former mining engineer turned salvage operator, turned galactic consciousness specialist, smiled as he prepared for his next impossible assignment. After all, impossible was just another word for something nobody had figured out yet, and he was just getting started. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.